Once again, the safety of the Oxford Astrazeneca vaccine is being called into question by some of the biggest countries in Europe. Today, Spain joined Germany, France and Italy, who all say they're taking the precautionary measure of suspending the use of the jab because of fears about side effects, including blood clots. They've followed several other countries across the continent.
Both the World Health Organization and the EU's medical regulator have said there is no evidence to link the jab with blood clots, and both will be meeting tomorrow to discuss the issue. Scientists here say the number of reported clots is very low and no higher than before vaccine programmes began in Europe. And AstraZeneca insists that 17 million have received their jab across Europe, with 40 cases of blood clots developing. Today, the First Minister moved to reassure the public.
Based on what I know right now, I can stand.
Now, the return to school of more pupils today marks another sign of a shift towards life opening up again. Primaries 4 to 7 were back full-time and secondary pupils part-time. It means the focus switches to a statement at Holyrood tomorrow about the route out of lockdown. So, what can we expect? Well, the First Minister has hinted it would include the proposed date for the end of the stay-at-home rule.
Yeah, another one to watch out for is a date for the reopening of non-essential shops. The timetable could also include an indication of when hospitality might reopen. And she also said there would be details on further relaxations to the rules around meeting up with other households.
This all came with a customary warning of caution and the news that there's been a slight rise in cases over the last week. Well, the Nine's Carol Erskine has been finding out what different sectors want to hear most from tomorrow's announcement.
Writers want him very much.
Now, we've talked a lot in the past few months about the zero-COVID approach or an elimination strategy. It's the one that New Zealand and Australia have followed. It means tolerating almost no COVID cases in the community, using tight travel restrictions to keep the virus out, and snap lockdowns to isolate outbreaks. Other scientists believe that with vaccines and better treatments for hospital patients, we can relax and learn to live with a certain level of COVID, a bit like we do with flu every winter. Well, two scientists on either side of that debate join us now. Professor Andrew Watterson from Stirling University is part of the Zero COVID Scotland campaign, while Professor Paul McKeague from Edinburgh University believes restrictions should be lifted sooner rather than later. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the programme this evening. Professor Watterson, I want to start with you. It's a big question, isn't it? Can Scotland eliminate COVID-19? But you think we can? So sorry to cut in there, but you're suggesting that we just learn to live with COVID-19 like we live with other coronaviruses, like the flu, for example. What does that look like to you? Now, the Prime Minister has waded into the row over how the Metropolitan Police dealt with a vigil to remember Sarah Everard, the 33-year-old who went missing on March the 3rd. Her body was discovered a week later and a police officer has been charged with her murder. Boris Johnson described footage of officers forcibly removing some women from the vigil as distressing and said women's fears over violence must be properly heard.
Today, the House of Commons debated a new crime bill which would give police more powers to restrict the right to protest. The SNP, which usually abstains on England-only legislation in Westminster, said it would vote against it. The BBC's special correspondent, Lucy Manning, reports.
Now, remember, you can get in touch with us if you've got a story. All the details are just down there at the front of the screen. Now, across the world, people of East and Southeast Asian descent have faced increased hostility and racist attacks since the COVID-19 virus first emerged in China. Yeah,
in Scotland, police figures show a 50% increase in the number of attacks against this community in the past year, with 474 hate crimes recorded in 2020 alone. Christina Ong has been speaking to some of the victims of those crimes who are taking a stand.
Okay, so maybe we can get a wee draw here.
Hope is still alive.
Just Scotland, eh?
Not to be. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Laura. Right, the Scottish Conservatives have been holding their annual conference. Their leader, Douglas Ross, has claimed the SNP is no longer invincible after 14 years in power and the mishandling of harassment complaints against Alex Salmond.
He set out his plans for a COVID recovery that he thinks should be a priority after the Holyrood election. Here's our political editor, Glenn Campbell.
Mystery as to where they came from.
Yeah, the charity said the pair might have been kept as pets before escaping or being abandoned, but they are now being looked after at the wildlife centre, so that's good. I think I'd run away if I bumped into one of them.
Yes, vicious things. Christine is here with us now, and that is a stunning scene, I know, behind you there. What's going on? Is it Northern Lights?
Yes, the Northern Lights. Just a beautiful...
Fortunately not. I would absolutely love to.
I haven't, and from Inverness as well up north, no, I haven't seen it.
One day.
But, yeah, not tonight though, I don't think, Rebecca. Thank you. Yes, the clouds have been to 13 Celsius. That's the forecast. Back to you both.
Thank you very much, Kirstine. Well, that's all we have got time for tonight.
Yeah, we'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
Have a good evening.
Bye.